Hi, kids. Welcome to Miss Nancy's Bible College for Kids. I'm glad to have you. We're on the third story, and it's stories today in the Scary Stories Through the Bible. Today is the storm, the maniacs of Gadara, the woman with the blood issue, and they laugh at the Lord. All of that is very scary. It's in the New Testament in the book of Mark. It's chapters 4 and 5. So let's get started. Now let me again start by saying the scariest thing that could ever happen is that you would leave this world without Jesus, and then you would go down there where the devil is. But I don't believe any of my kids under my voice is ever going to have to worry about that, because we believe the Bible, God's holy word, that Jesus Christ came, he died on the cross of Calvary, he was buried and arose the third day according to the scripture. And if we call on his name, we will be saved. And so I trust that you have, or that you will. Okay, the same day when the evening was come, or the even, he saith unto them, this is Jesus talking, let us pass over to the other side. And when they had sent away the multitude, they took him even as he was in the ship. And there were also with him other little ships. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat in the ship, so that it was now full. And he, talking about Jesus, was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. I love that. He didn't have to worry about any of it. And they awake him and say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? And he arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, Why are ye so fearful? How is it that ye have no faith? And they feared exceedingly, and said one to another, What manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? Now they came over to the other side of the sea, into the country of the Gadarenes. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with the unclean spirit. Notice Miss Nancy entitled this, The Maniacs of Gadara. There were two of them. Matthew talks about two of them, but Mark and Luke, they focus in on this one. It must have been the one that was the worst. I sure hope the other one wasn't no worse. Let's go on. Okay, so a man that was from the tombs met him with the unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no man could bind him, no, not with chains, because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, just like a prisoner, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces. Neither could any man tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs. Here's some things he was doing, kids. He was crying and cutting himself with stones. But when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshipped him. The devils know who Jesus are, who Jesus is. Some of the false religions could take notes from the devils. They would sit at his feet. They call him the Son of God. They know. And some of the religions don't. But when he saw Jesus, he ran and worshipped him. And he cried with a loud voice and said, What have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God? I adjure thee by God that thou torment me not. For he said unto him, here's what Jesus said to the unclean spirit in the man, Come out of the man, thou unclean spirit. And he asked him, What is thy name? This is Jesus talking to the unclean spirit. And he answered, saying, My name is Legion, for we are many. And he besought him much that he would not send them away, them. This is using the right pronoun, guys. It's not a he or she, but it's them. Not send them away out of the country. Now there was there nigh unto the mountains a great herd of swine feeding. We know from other lessons that's a great herd of pigs. And all the devils besought him, saying, Send us into the swine, that we may enter into them. And forthwith Jesus gave them leave. In other words, he said, go ahead then. And the unclean spirits went out and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. They were about 2,000 and were choked in the sea. 2,000 devils in one man. How scary is that? Teenagers nowadays, not you little ones, but teenagers, they love things like demons and dragons and dungeons and devils. Well, they can have all that plus The Walking Dead if they'll just get in the Bible and read it. And you guys know about it, but you don't have to be scared of it. But anyway, and they that fed the swine fled and told it in the city and in the country. And they went out to see what it was that was done. And they came to Jesus and see him that was possessed with the devil and had the legion, sitting and clothed and in his right mind. And they were afraid. Why was they afraid then? I don't get that. They should have been afraid of what they could be if they didn't straighten up. And they that saw it told them how it befell him, to him that was possessed with the devil, and also concerning the swine. And they began to pray him. You think they'd be saying, Jesus, would you heal this and would you do this miracle? No, you know what they's praying to Jesus at this point? Would you please leave out of our country? That don't make sense, but it's all about that money. But anyway, they began to pray him to depart out of their coast. And when he was coming to the ship, he just came over there for that one man, I believe. He knew what was going to happen. Then he's leaving. But he that had been possessed with the devil prayed to Jesus too. And here's what he said. He wanted to go with him. But Jesus suffered him not. In other words, he said no. He said, here's what I want you to do. Go home to thy friends and tell them how great things the Lord had done for thee. And kids, that's the same charge that he gives us. If we get saved, he said, go and tell everybody else what God done for you. Tell them they need to get saved too. And hath had compassion on thee. And he departed and began to publish in Decapolis how great things Jesus had done for him. And all men did marvel. Every man on earth right now ought to marvel at some of the things Jesus does. But when Jesus was passed over again by ship to the other side, he returned, in other words, much people gathered unto him, and he was nigh unto the sea. And behold, there cometh one of the rulers of the synagogue. I forgot to tell you about the maiden. Jairus was his name. And when he saw him, he fell at his feet and besought him greatly, saying, My little daughter lieth at the point of death. I pray thee, come and lay thy hands on her, that she may be healed and she may live. And Jesus went with them, and much people followed him and thronged him. And a certain woman which had an issue of blood for 12 years, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing better, but rather grew worse. When she heard of Jesus, she came in the press behind and touched his garment. For here's what she said, If I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. She had great faith, and straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the plague. That's a wonderful thing. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned about in the press and said, Who touched my clothes? Well, they were amazed, as we would be if we'd been there. And his disciples said to him, Thou seest the multitude thronging thee, and sayest thou, Who touched me? They were amazed, and he looked around about to see her that had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, there's fear again and trembling. All this stuff goes together. Knowing what was done in her, she didn't know what he would do, came and fell down before him and told him all the truth. Guys, when you get saved, that's all you got to do is tell him the truth. I'm a sinner. I need you to save me, and he will. And he said to her, Daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace and be whole of the plague. But while he yet spake, there came from the ruler of the synagogue's house certain which said, Thy daughter is dead. Remember, Jairus is the one we started earlier. Thy daughter is dead. Why troublest thou the master any further? As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he saith unto the ruler of the synagogue, Be not afraid, only believe. And he suffered no man to follow him, except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. And he cometh to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, and seeth the tumult, and them that wept and wailed greatly. And when he was come in, he saith unto them, Why makest ye this ado, and weep? The damsel is not dead, she sleepeth. Here's what they did to the Lord. This is scary. And they laughed the Lord to scorn. But when he had put them all out, I can only imagine how mad he was, or how frustrated, could have been some of both. He taketh the father and the mother of the damsel, and them that were with him, and entered in where the damsel was lying. And he took the damsel by the hand, and said unto her, Talitha cumi, which is, being interpreted, Damsel, I say unto thee, arise. And straightway the damsel arose and walked, for she was the age of 12 years. And I thought about this. That woman in this story, she had had a blood issue for 12 years. This little girl was born about the time her trouble started. And they were astonished with a great astonishment. And I thought about this. You know, Nosy Nancy shows up every time. I wonder about those that were with great astonishment, what they did after that. Did they follow Jesus? Did they continue to believe, or did they still laugh at him? I don't know. He charged them straitly that no man should know it, and commanded that they should be given her something to eat. So I hope you guys like this story. I know I do. It's scary and it's exciting, but it's also sad for the people. But Miss Nancy always wants to know, what happened to this little girl? What happened to this woman? What happened to this man? The maniac, the woman with blood, the little girl. I hope they lived their life following Jesus and telling everybody what he had done for them, and I hope you guys do too. Okay, let's get started. What time of the day did they set sail over the sea? It was in the evening, wasn't it? And what happened in the middle of the sea? A great storm came. What was Jesus doing? Sleeping in the hinder part of the boat on a pillow. I love that part. The great storm came, the waves beat, and the ship was full of water. And when the disciples woke Jesus, what did he do? He went out to the waves and the wind, and he said, Peace, be still. And what did they do? They did what he told them. And when they came to the other side, who or what met them there immediately? A man from the tombs. Two, really, but we're going to talk about the one. What was some things about this man that you remember? He had chains and fetters on him. No man could tame him. They would lock him up with that chain and that fetter and them cuffs and everything. He'd just break him like it was a string. And he spent all of his time, day and night, in the tombs. And he would cut himself with rocks. So we call that the Maniacs of Gadara. And when he saw Jesus, what did he do? He ran and fell down and worshipped him. He knew who he was. The devils all know. But I wonder about, well, like the Catholics or the JWs, do they know who he is? Because they don't call him the Son of God. Anyway, just threw that in there. What did he cry with a loud voice? What did this maniac cry? Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God, I adjure thee by God that thou tormentest us not. What did Jesus speak? He said, Come out of the man, thou unclean spirit. And what did Jesus ask? I love this part. Nosy Nancy got the answer this time. He said, What is your name? What did the person inside the person say? The evil spirit, I mean. He said, My name is Legion, for we are many. We'll go on to talk about how many. But what did the unclean spirit want Jesus to do for him? He said, Don't drive us out of this country. He said, There's a herd of hog right over there. Can we go them? What did Jesus do? He gave them liberty. He said, Go. So they did, but what happened to the herd of swine? They ran violently. That means they did it. They was probably running over each other, climbing over each other to jump in that sea. And then there they drowned. Anyway, what did the people that kept the herd of swine do? They went into the city and into the country. And I thought about this. if they went and told everybody what happened, why don't us, the children of God, go tell everybody what happened to us? We're failing. We're failing. We surely are. Anyway, how did the people that come to find out what all was happening, what did they pray for Jesus to do? They prayed for him to leave their country, didn't they? But when they saw this man that the demons had come out of, the devils, what did they do? They saw him sitting there, cleaned up, in clothes, because he had ran around naked. I didn't tell you that was in the other gospel, but anyway, he was clothed in his right mind. He was sitting there by Jesus. They were scared. I don't get that part, but anyway, that's what it says. But what, I lost my place, I'm sorry. Oh, the man, what did the man pray that the devils had come out of? He said, please, Jesus, may I go with you? What was the answer? He said, no. He said, go back to your friends, your loved ones, tell them all the things that happened to you. So he did. Now, to go on, what was the man's name that had a daughter that was in trouble? Jairus. How old was his daughter? 12. And what was wrong with his daughter? She was sick and she was going to die, wasn't she? But then there shows up this woman. What was the problem with this woman? She had an issue of blood. How long did she have it? 12 years, as long as this little girl had been living. They didn't know about each other, but two different stories. But I found that very interesting. But the woman, what did she think to herself? She said, if I could just touch the hem of his garment, I'd be healed of this. She had great faith. And when Jesus turned around, what did he say? He said, who touched me? Did the disciples and the people with them understand this? No, they did not. They said to him, look around you. There is everybody thronging us. And you say, who touched me? But why did Jesus know somebody had touched him special? Because virtue went out of him. Virtue's something good, probably healing powers. But anyway, he said, because of your faith, you can be made whole. But when the servants of the high place come, what did they announce? They said, your daughter is dead. Why bother you the master anymore? But did Jesus, what did he say? He said, don't fear. He said, only believe. And then when he got there and he went in, he was telling them, he said, don't be so sad, because they was weeping and wailing bad. He said, she's not dead. She's just asleep. What was their reaction? This is probably the scariest part to me. They laughed Jesus to scorn. So he put them all out of that place, except who? The mom and dad and the three men with him. And what was their names? Peter, James, and John. And when he spoke to her, he said, get up. What did she do? She got up, didn't she? Yes. So I wonder what they did. I wonder what you guys are going to do. I know what I'm going to do. I hope I stay in the fight and keep fighting and keep telling kids about Jesus and keep winning souls. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Bye, kids.